The Darkest Hour by Barbara Erskine. Read by Sandra Duncan. Prologue. March. Glancing into the driving mirror, Lawrence Standish frowned uneasily as he swung the old Citron estate off the main road and headed into a side turning which wound down steeply through coppiced woods towards the valley bottom. The sleek black Ford, which had been sitting on his tail for the last 20 miles or so, had followed him and was drawing closer. He had first noticed the car coming out of Chichester. It was close behind him, too close, and he was growing increasingly irritated. Perhaps he shouldn't have turned off the main road. He was lost now, well off the beaten track, threading his way up and down winding lanes, ever mindful of the car still there in his rear-view mirror. He was approaching a crossroads now. On impulse, he spun the Citron's steering wheel to the left at the last moment without signalling, feeling the suspension sway and adjust as the road climbed steeply again, becoming narrower and more potholed as it crested the rise and plunged once more into the woods. The black car followed him. If anything, it had closed the gap between them slightly. He didn't recognize the car, and he couldn't make out the face of the driver, but there was no doubt at all that he was being harassed in an increasingly dangerous fashion. He had no idea why. Was it road rage? Had he offended him by pulling out in front of him or something? He wasn't aware of doing anything which anyone could take offence at. Did the guy want to rob him? Did he want his car? He doubted it. He fumbled in his pocket for his mobile with the vague idea of calling the police, and cursed, remembering that he had thrown it into the battered old briefcase, which at this moment lay on the back seat with the surprise birthday present he had picked up for Lucy. A signpost flashed past. He couldn't see how far it was to the next village, but once there he resolved to pull up outside the first shop he reached and go inside. The car was even closer now, and it was flashing its lights. Supposing there was something wrong? For a moment he hesitated, taking his foot off the accelerator, and as though sensing his hesitation, the driver behind him pulled out to try and overtake. Still flashing its lights, the nose of the Ford drew level. The road was narrow and winding, and there was a sharp left-hand bend ahead. Oh, shit! Lawrence stamped on his brake. The car behind him was trying to force its way past. It swerved towards him, and there was a scrape of metal, followed by a louder grinding noise as the wheels of the two vehicles locked. Instinctively, Lawrence pulled his car towards the left, praying there was room for him to manoeuvre. His Citron's wheels spun on the muddy verge, then gripped and flung the car into the dense hazel brake. Lawrence was aware for a fraction of a second of the tangle of splintering branches thrashing against the windscreen. Then beyond, a strip of woodland, sloping steeply down towards a river at the bottom of an area of rolling hillside. The Citron banked sharply, racing faster down the hill. Lawrence was stabbing frantically for the brake. Shocked and disorientated, he fought to hold the steering wheel. The last thing he saw was the huge oak tree, heading straight for him. The car reared up momentarily as it struck the oak. Then it slid sideways in a cascade of shredded bark and started to roll. At the foot of the slope, it hit another tree, crushing the bonnet like a concertina, as it came at last to a stop. There were several moments of silence as the ruptured fuel lines spilled their contents onto the hot exhaust. Then, with a roar, the car burst into flames. The driver of the Ford had pulled up at the roadside 10 yards ahead. He climbed out and ran back, standing by the torn and broken trees, looking down at the burning wreck. That was not supposed to happen. Shit. Unknowingly repeating Lawrence's last word, he watched in horror as the car exploded, sending a ball of flame and smoke up into the windless air.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?